So my name is Grace Kifiri from UN Habitat, the Policy, Legislation and Governance section. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you joining us today from across the world. On behalf of UN Habitat's Policy, Legislation and Governance section and the Urban Basic Services section, I warmly welcome you to this community of practice session on advancing urban-rural linkages for resilient food systems. Maybe we could pause a bit and think about the food you ate today or yesterday or the other day, where it came from, who produced it, who sold it, how was it transported, what happens after your consumption of the food. That journey connects an array of actors ranging from farmers, vendors, transporters, value addition actors, waste management actors as well, and many other actors, all in the urban and rural continuum. So today we are asking ourselves, how can we strengthen these connections for resilient food systems? As we all know, we are living in a time where rapid urbanization, climate shocks, biodiversity loss, and rising inequalities are no longer isolated issues. They are deeply interconnected, and they're creating what some have called a polycrisis. So UN Habitat, with its global mandate for socially and environmentally sustainable cities and human settlements, recognize urban-rural linkages as a powerful framework to address this complexity. So today, at this community of practice, we bring together a team of experts to discuss how urban-rural linkages, particularly through local, traditional, and farmers markets, could strengthen both the food system's resilience and climate action. Secondly, we'll be sharing field experiences and policy relevant practices from different parts of the world. And finally, identifying or defining some of the key messages to inform UN Habitats and partners' contributions to some of the upcoming global events, such as the UN Food Systems Summit+4, CFS, COP30, among others. So we're honored to be joined by a distinguished panel representing a unique and diverse set of global and local actors who are actively shaping this agenda on the ground and at the policy level in different contexts globally. So before hearing from this distinguished panel, allow me to invite Mr. Remy Sechiping, who heads the Policy, Legislation and Governance section of UN Habitat, to give opening remarks and to set the scene for this community of practice. Over to you, Dr. Remy.
Good morning, afternoon, evening to you all. I hope you can hear me well. Good. All right. So yeah, it's a pleasure to join you, the distinguished panelists, partners, and participants today to discuss an issue of great importance to all of us. We know that the conversation we're going to have today reaffirms our common interest in linking urban, rural, and peri-urban areas through the territory. And this is becoming widely appreciated to help us strengthen many systems, particularly the food system. And that helps us really operationalize what we call territorial development. From UN Habitat, we take note that over 70% of people living in cities, and this is projected to for 2050, and this creates the need for more interdependence between the territories, meaning that from cities, intermediary cities, rural areas, and this had to be strengthened in a way to make sure that the development doesn't leave any space behind. Therefore, the need for local, traditional, and farmer markets connection is very much important because it connects that territory and remain really one of the areas where the food system can foster more social cohesion, improve livelihoods at local level, promote cultural identity, and many other benefits. And in time where we try to promote fresh food and healthy food, this is becoming more important. And this is why for us integrating urban and rural in the context of governance is very much important, and the vehicle of using the food, land, water, climate, and other livelihoods entry points becoming very much at the heart of our discussion. For us at UN Habitat, we are guided by the mandate given to us by the UN Habitat Assembly resolution adopted in 2019 that call upon us to enhance urban-rural linkages for sustainable urbanization and human settlements. And this is further guided by the guiding principles on urban-rural linkages, which has really the core entry points for reinforcing the partnership, the territorial partnership between urban and rural. For us, in terms of example, we have been very active in developing the knowledge, the evidence in that area, and also the advocacy to make this narrative easily understood and easily operational. You will know that, for instance, we are launching pretty soon in the coming weeks our Urban-Rural Linkages flagship report, the Global Trends and Insight on Urban-Rural Linkages, that brings out really that body of knowledge together. So look forward to that particular report that will complement other advocacy knowledge product that UN Habitat.
All right, listen, I'm entering into a meeting. I gotta go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So still in this meeting, we have we can share with you the key, some of the preliminary finding of this particular report in the chat for you to start having a glimpse and start salivating as you read the report that will be launched officially before September. You are also aware of the white paper that is coming up. You can see my colleague Thomas smiling here, something he had worked relentlessly on that, on territorial governance, market, and urban-rural linkages. And we appreciate the contribution that many of you had made in that particular report. We would like to also announce here that the traditional urban-rural linkages forum, as we know it, now conference, will be held early November in the same place, Songyang in China. And this is always an event to look forward to in terms of advocacy and insight in different ways we can engage with urban-rural linkages. We at UN Habitat and with partners are indeed appreciating and noting the growing interest and the requests from member states and some of the partners to strengthening urban-rural linkages and strengthening our partnership as global partners to work on urban-rural linkages. And this discussion we are having today shows that a collaboration partnership that we are trying to nurture to address that. In that regards, we know that with the colleagues in on Urban Basic Services Department at UN Habitat, we would like to strengthen further the partnership, and we are pleased that we are all here again, WFMC, UNEP, and Resilient Local Food Supply Chain Alliance, GAME, and many others. To really continue that collaboration. That's something we value, and that's something many member states are calling us to further develop. We know that today discussion, dialogue, and exchange will inform the global processes and strengthening the partnership, as I have underscored. And Grace had already mentioned the UN Food Systems Summit #4 on stake taking moment. And we are pleased that with our colleagues here, Belém and many others, we have worked on the side event that have been approved. So we look forward to engaging, preparing for that side event for the summit that will take place in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, from the 28th to the 29th July 2025. We know that many of you are engaged and preparing for the Committee on World Food Security, that's 53rd one, the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact in terms of partnership, and the the COP30 in Brazil, where this issue had been called upon to be featured. So I hope that in this spirit of partnership and acknowledgement of the importance of territorial development, where no one will be left behind, we continue working together through this partnership, through this community of practice session to reaffirm UN Habitat and many other partners here commitments to collaborating further and to advance this important topic wherever we can. So Grace, that's what I had to say, and I wish all of us a successful discussion and look forward to further engagement with all of you. Over to you, Grace.
Thank you so much, Dr. Remi Sechiping. Thank you for reminding us of UN Habitat mandates through the UN Habitat Assembly resolution, which specifically states enhancing urban-rural linkages for sustainable urbanization and human settlements, and also the guiding principles of urban-rural linkages, which are known to some of us. For the global report that Remi mentioned, teaser has been posted in the chat, which is key highlights booklets of some of the core issues that I imagined from that particular report that will be launched later. My colleagues will also be sharing the white paper. Some of you have contributed to this, and it's for your perusal and in case you're interested to contribute to it as well. It will be featured at the UN Food Systems Summit +4 in Addis Ababa next month. So with that, let me briefly introduce our distinguished panelists. Thank you so much, Remi, for setting the stage. So today's panel could also be described as a masterclass dominated by an all-star lineup of brilliant women. We have with us Dr. Anne Trevenant-Jones, who among many other roles, she's a technical lead Food Systems Governance Program at the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, commonly known as GAIN. We have Dr. Robin Moon. Nice to see you. Dr. Anne, nice to see you, Dr. Robin. Dr. Robin Moon is the head of strategy, International Secretariat at the World Farmers Market Coalition. And thirdly, we have Ms. Sharon Gill, who is a program officer at United Nations Environment. She's the city's lead. And finally, our only gentleman in the panel, we have Mr. Jamie Bertie, who is the lead of Resilient Local Food Supply Chains Alliance. Welcome, and their bios can be found in the chat if you'd like to know more about our panel. So to get us started, I would like to pose one opening question just to set the scene and the stage from our panelists. I would like to hear your initial perspective before we dive deeper. In one or two sentences, what excites you most right now about the potential of urban-rural linkages to strengthen food systems in your work? Perhaps we can start with Dr. Anne Trevenant-Jones, and then we can go around the virtual table. Over to you, Anne.
Thank you very much, and delighted to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I think what's really exciting me most is that we've always been talking in this kind of supply and demand nature around urban and traditional and local and farmers markets. And now the growing impetus and evidence is very much recognizing these markets, both in the informal and formal sectors, as places of change, places of community that reach beyond the cities to the urban rural area to be much more inclusive, to operate multiple levers of food systems transformation and healthy diets, which involve smallholder farmers, all different forms of infrastructure, whether it's roads or cool rooms or solar panels, and linking that retail and consumer and even back food waste to nurturing the soils. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Annie. Places of change and communities beyond the cities. Over to you, Dr. Robin.
Thank you for having me. Hi, everybody. World Farmers Markets Coalition's work, we exist to represent farmers markets, urban and rural areas, and farmers from the rural areas, and consumers in the urban areas around the world, to be the connector among them and to create a community of practice. We connect the farmers markets around the globe. We build new farmers markets around the globe where there are none. We provide technical assistance to new and existing farmers markets around the globe. And lastly, we measure the impact of farmers markets, building urban-rural linkages, improving access to food and health, promoting inclusive economic growth for both farmers and the community in which the farmers market exists, and flourishing social inclusion, in particular, elevating women and youth statuses in their community, and thereby enhancing ecological sustainability.
Thank you so much. Thank you for telling us about World Farmers Market Coalition and how farmers market link consumers in the urban and farmers in the rural and peri-urban. Over to you, Ms. Sharon.
So coming from the UN Environment Program, of course, as UNEP, because we set the global environmental agenda, what excites me is the growing awareness of food as an environmental issue. This shift redefines food waste in particular as a resource now, linking climate action, food security, and economic opportunity across urban and rural spaces. So for example, when surplus food is recovered from urban markets and redistributed, composted for use, we have peri-urban agriculture. We are creating circular, resilient connections between the producers and consumers. And we in UNEP believe that connecting people back in nature is critical to the success of our environmental issues. And food, I have to say, is a great connector. Everyone wants to talk about food, right? So I don't think it's possible not to be excited about food at all.
Super and exciting, and good to hear from UN Environment about how food is an environmental issue and also a connector. Over to you, Mr. Jeremy.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I think that's what really excites me most is try to answer to the question is how to feed the world, an urbanized world, because we expected that 70% of population will live in the cities by 2050. So how we feed the cities, and I think that from our perspective we have to answer to this question. The first is like say you are an urbanized techno-digital food paradigm where the cities from one side they become autonomous through vertical farmer, farm scraper, terrace farming, and on the other hand they are completely disconnected with the surrounding rural areas, and they are connected in global supply chain from nowhere, where industrialized big farming, monocropping, and chemical food production occurs. And on the other side, we have another answer to this question, that is what I call the agroecological bioregional food approach, which is about, and I do not like the term city region, because I think that it's better to also change the words, because city regions means a domination of the city over the rural. So I think that's a new bioregional approach, more balanced relationship between the rural and the urban, is about reconnecting the cities with the local food sheds. That does not mean self-sufficiency, but self-reliance, as local as much as possible, not only local. And this means providing local market for rural small farms to secure economic viability to them so they can remain in rural areas. So it's a counter process against the urbanization. And this means a farmer remaining in rural area is not just about providing food to the cities, but also ecosystem services. And I think overall secure agro-biocultural diversity, which is at the base of life. So I think that this is our point of view.
Super. Great hearing from you, and based on your perspective and what you lead, you really emphasize the local.
Yeah.
So we're going to the next round, where we'll again now dive deeper a bit. And for this round, I'll be giving each of you 3 minutes to give your perspective on, given the diverse challenges that are converging on our food systems. We have urbanization, we have climate change, we have inequality. Where do you see as the greatest untapped potential for strengthening urban-rural linkages to build food system resilience? You have 3 minutes. We could start again from Dr. Annie. We go again around the virtual table. Over to you. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. I think for me, speaking about food security and nutrition and resilience in the terms of LMIC countries and cities, that this disconnect between cities and rural communities and the landscapes is unhelpful, not only in terms of diversity of food production, but in terms of our connections as communities culturally with where food comes from, how it's produced, innovation and creativity that are in these spaces, and understanding that food systems have traditionally been designed, well, certainly since the industrial era, to deliver en masse, whereas we're looking at kind of how do we diversify this, go back even to traditional foods, as the previous speaker was talking about. How do we make those connections more intimate to the seasons? How do they become part of our lives, including the children who think chickens come from deep freezers now? And for us, the bioregion is much more important in terms of governance as mediating these social and ecological relationships, which are really underutilized, underleveraged. There's all these relationships that people are not recognizing that not only drive things like climate change and lack of affordability of food, but which can actually be leveraged for change and transformation. And we know that bioregions don't just stop at the border of a city government's administration. Climate doesn't stop here. It's going to involve multiple actors, multiple partners coming together, and not just in a one-way flow, in a two-way flow. We see resilience in the markets, for example, around about those things like social safety nets, the creativity that we saw coming out of COVID, and even today, there are all these kinds of, many of them, undocumented ways in which society is coping without these formal mechanisms. So for us, it's very much about how we balance those and how do we do what we already know works well. We talk about multi-stakeholder platforms, but we're not really doing that well enough. We talk about territorial governance, but actually, how is this going to work? How are we going to invite the smallholder farmers to the table and have them not only have voice, but actually impact in terms of strategy design of integrated development planning? So for us, it's governance has a key role to play in these, but also just fully reconnecting and not seeing the rural as a kind of urban-rural dilemma, I think. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Not seeing rural as an urban-rural dilemma, or seeing it as disconnected. I like that. And also emphasizing on the role of government and the key importance of going back to what already works and making it even work better. Thank you so much. We'll now go to Robin. Dr. Robin, over to you.
Sure. I don't think this audience is a novice or a stranger to farmers markets' role in enhancing both urban and rural food security and resilience by fostering direct connections between producers and consumers. So I'm just going to organize for you 5 different ways that we do so. we being farmers markets. One, farmers markets strengthen local economies, not only in the urban areas, but also in rural resilience. Farmers markets provide a low barrier entry point for smallholding, small scale, and beginning even farmers, helping them earn a great share of the food dollar by selling directly to consumers. We all know this. Farmers markets reduce farmers' reliance on volatile wholesale or export markets, which enhances their economic stability, especially for the smallholding ones. Local food systems support rural employment across all food systems like farming, food processing, and logistics. And also evidence shows that the urban local areas where farmers markets exist also experience improved and activated economy because shoppers come, and even the sellers, they come and they shop around, they spend money in that local community. Number two, farmers markets enhance urban food security. This is also not a unfamiliar factor for you. Farmers markets provide access to fresh local produce, in-season local produce into urban areas, including low-income neighborhoods that may be underserved, some areas severely. And many markets in the US, Canada, and other global north countries in particular have this thing called nutrition incentive programs, where they accept supplemental nutrition coupons and offer, matching dollars and incentives to make the healthy food options more affordable for those who otherwise wouldn't. Number three, farmers markets shorten the food supply chain. The local decentralized food systems are less prone to disruptions like global food supply chain shocks like pandemic and the wars we are seeing right now, or fuel price surges. And also this means quicker distribution because the chains are short, because food travels in fewer miles, increasing freshness and reducing spoilage and waste and things like that. But this also relates to the next point 4, encouraging climate resilient practices, because there's less miles, less fuels. So farmers markets reward growers also who use organic, regenerative, and diversified cropping methods, supporting soil health, biodiversity, climate adaptation, and short mileage, transportation, things like that. And this creates sustainable farming incentives for the producers. Producers also get immediate feedback from the consumers, encouraging innovations, grow new things, and that really encourages biodiversity. And there's a responsiveness to environmental and social concerns in that interaction. Last but not least, farmers markets build social capital and food system awareness. So that is through consumer education that farmers markets managers do. They create opportunities for urban residents to learn about where their food comes from and how it's grown, especially important in the global north and hyper-urban areas where all they really see is the packaged foods. Also, community cohesion is fostered at the farmers market as farmers markets serve as the social hubs and it strengthens ties between rural growers and urban eaters, and building trust across geographic and cultural divides. And I mentioned before, in particular for women and youth who are involved in both selling and buying.
Thank you so much. If you've not heard about farmers markets and the World Farmers Market Coalition, Robin will be posting in the chat, because she has really highlighted 5 roles or 5 ways in which farmers market bring about the connection between urban and rural. Annie is coming from GAIN. She was really talking from most of the perspective of local and traditional markets, in case you'd like to know more about what they have done in some local and traditional markets in some countries, and not only in Africa, in Asia, etc. Remember to write your question or comment in the chat. If you have a targeted question to a particular panelist, please indicate. So we'll proceed now to United Nations, that is UN Environment. Ms. Sharon Gill, over to you.
Thank you, Grace. When I first read this question, I was thinking to myself, so I'm here in the capacity of my Sustainable Urban Food Systems hat, but within UNEP, as you know, as some of you know, we also do quite a lot of things. And one of them is I also manage the program on mobilizing cities towards restoration of ecosystems restoration and also around climate advocacy. And I can see the convergence of all of these issues in the urban-rural linkages, in the story around urban-rural linkages. And many of the people in this audience I've had conversations with already, and we're really collectively, I feel, are trying to mobilize this. Now, just to hone in on a specific action point that maybe we can highlight in this panel is food waste prevention and how we can improve food waste prevention in urban food markets, and also in that way strengthen urban-rural linkages. So urban food markets generate high volumes of perishable waste. Without preventive measures, this waste ends up in landfills. And to UNEP, the biggest concern is that this contributes to methane emissions and overburdens municipal waste systems. So food waste prevention tackles the issue at source, reducing overall volumes, improving segregation, and enabling better downstream reuse, such as composting or even food donation. And we partner with a lot of private sector partners to work on that. So a few examples: Bangkok, the city-led campaign is an example. It raised public awareness, supported vendors and households to sort organic waste, improving collection. Mexico City, I had the pleasure of working very closely with Mexico City in developing their urban farm network, but in a circular way, integrating food recovery and composting in its market operations. They also have a very strong focus on integrating indigenous communities, creating communities around linking the urban-rural linkages. And I think it's really important to do that because we need to, as I said, and I will repeat myself, unfortunately, that for the environmental issues to have meaning to communities, to individuals, we need to reconnect at the most basic community level. And this is something that we have been doing within UNEP in the space of sustainable urban food systems, because food is something that people really understand before they can even connect to the broader biodiversity, which is also something that we advocate for. Back to you.
Thank you so much. Nice to hear. Of course, yeah, food is one of the things that everybody, even a child, understand. And nice to hear the exciting activities that you're doing in different contexts, and your emphasis on dealing with waste at source and how involving community, reconnecting with the community at their own level is very key. And nice to bring us to the end, that is waste. Most of the time, waste in the food system is sometimes forgotten. So we've talked about the farmers, we've talked about the markets. Now we're heading to the west, and we're going to our next speaker, Jamie Bertie, who will be telling us more about local food system supplies. Over to you, Jamie.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. What I would like to stress is that when we talk about local food system, we talk about a complexity of short food supply chain. This is very important. Informal market and street vendors are very important. Farmer market, wet market, peasant market. We have wholesale market, specialty market. We have also community support agriculture. We have box schemes, food co-op, farmer collective retail store, direct sale, e-commerce, food hub. So when we talk about local food system, we have to deal with this complexity, and we have different channels that connects small farmers directly to consumers. And what I think that's the important things is that we have to consider this complexity. And I think that what has been stressed about the importance and the relevance of territorial governance to develop a coordination, collaboration, and cooperation among these different channels. And I think that's another important issue now is I don't like the word scale up. I prefer the terms lateral scaling. But the point is how we can connect small farmers with the wholesale buyers. I mean, institution, school meals, but also restaurants, hotels, pub. So the point is that probably what is needed now, and what, for instance, I'm working as also a researcher, is on the concept of food hub. So it's about developing digital, logistical, and organizational infrastructure to aggregate the small farmers to connect to the consumer. But the point, and also that has been stressed before, is that the hub is not just about, let's say, economic and logistic connection. It's about creating a community, and also building on the economic transaction. We can also develop, if we have a physical space, for instance, we can develop added value services, for instance, processing, that is very needed for small farmers. We can provide food delivery, but also this hub can be a community of practice for we can work on exchanging knowledge between farmers, or to support farmers from towards agroecological or organic production. So I think that's we have to work on two directions. One is recognizing the complexities of different forms of short food supply chain and work on coordination. And on the other side is really to scale lateral what exists to have a big impact on this channel, and better connecting the farmers and the cities.
Thank you so much, Jamie. And you mentioned complexity requiring coordination. And I saw Robin really nodding her head when you really emphasized the need to support farmers. Yeah, and you really mentioned linking them to the consumers, not only school meals, restaurants, but other means. So I'm going to come back to each of you panelists just to understand more based on the insights you've given us. Because you have really told us what is the untapped potential, or potential that could be tapped further. So what is this one single or this one critical policy shift or collaborative action required from governments, civil society, or private sector to accelerate the advancement of resilient urban food systems through stronger urban-rural linkages? This could be relevant for the upcoming global events that we well know of. Dr. Remy Sitchping just mentioned to us, and I know Jeremy will also be telling us, one of the events that has been prepared by some of the partners here today has been approved, which is specifically on this topic that we are talking about today, strengthening urban-rural linkages through local, traditional, and farmers market. So I'm going to start again with Dr. Anne. Over to you again. What's these one single policy shifts?
Of course, I'll never just agree to one policy shift, because for me, markets, multiple policies come into that play. And I think what's important is the real lack of connectivity and legitimacy of these multi-stakeholder voices, whether it's market vendors, whether it's smallholder farmers, whether it's city governments connecting up to these national government commitments, whether it's climate commitments, whether it's Food Systems Summit pathways. This disconnection between the two is such that it is disrupting this more coherent urban-rural relationships in food systems transformation. So for me, that is the biggest challenge, along obviously with the innovative financing for it. But the city networks are important. So we are looking to see what happens at the 10th anniversary of the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact in October would be important for us. We've put a lot of energy into that as well as the Food Systems Summit+4 to really keep connecting, including to national conveners, and saying, you cannot keep agreeing to biodiversity targets, land use targets, climate targets, and not fully engage your networks. So for us, the city networks are sometimes when you are able to amplify something to a global level, like the Milan Pact, it can then actually shift and force mind shifts of national governments to come to the table. Whereas from within, when we represent a couple of cities or work with a couple of cities, it's very hard to shift that, including in rural communities who have even less of a voice because often their local governments are not as well resourced, if I can put it that way. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Anne. You're really keen on the governance, and nice to hear your emphasis and mention on the need to bring all these voices, the unheard voices, and the voice that already exists at the global forums at the local level, but now could be heard at the global forums that we're having, the 10th MUFPP and also UNF, that is United Nations Food Systems Summit+4. Now we're going to move to Robin. Over to you.
Yeah. Thanks. I'm going to build on what Anne and also Jamie, thank you for your comments on what you have said. And I'm going to answer this question a little differently. I believe it's really hard to think of a single most critical thing. I understand the intent of the question, because in reality, so many things must happen in concert and through a process, cascade of process that is often not quick. In fact, I believe, this is my opinion, too many initiatives by too many sectors give more weight and priority and scaling and system level change, which generally feels, it can feel detached from everyday lived experience. So then, our systems change and multilateral collaboration work, although not intended, often gets reduced to, I'm going to say like whiteboard, frameworks, sanitized metrics, and language so abstract that it obscures the people it claims to serve. And also, I would be remiss to not emphasize to this audience our work at World Farmers Markets Coalition, which is to create locally led and centered and local specific urban-rural linking farmers markets. So one example would be that we have been working with FAO to develop farmers markets measuring methodology to measure the various impacts of farmers markets and taking it to different parts of the world. And we're going to continue doing that to understand them better at the local level. And our coalition's theory of change, if you will, and that we call emergent strategy, which is like fractals. So, many small local successes and repeated successes at that add up to the larger system, because change is constant. And we believe in starting at the local level, not the other way around. And we believe that small is good, small is better. And we trust people versus institution, and in particular, local people. So we decentralize our leadership to leadership power to build collective power among our member organizations. And lastly, we have to move at the speed of trust. You might have heard that expression before. So we prioritize our relationships and community as central to truly sustainable movements. So my answer, if there were to be one single most critical collaborative action required from government, civil society, and the private sector, would be to fund these small, locally customized programs and organizations and trust the local leadership. Thank you.
Wow, local. So the need to fund local initiatives and trust local people versus institutions. Interesting. And I see love from the meet. I see love emojis from the group, from the participants. Thank you so much. Over to you, Sharon. Would like to hear from UN environment perspective.
Thank you so much. So when I was reading critical policy shift, my mind already went to fossil fuel phase out, or what would be the most critical shifts in the world. But that's not what we're talking about here. What I thought, and around the same vein as what everybody in this panel have been talking about, I think we need small wins towards a big goal. So we've been working a lot and focusing a lot around what we call the food waste breakthrough, which will be launched at COP30. We see that food waste is responsible for up to 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions, and these are rough numbers, and up to 14% of global methane emissions when sent to landfill. So the prevention really goes a long way. So UNEP is responding through a food waste breakthrough, bringing partners all over the world to be launched COP30 with the UN climate champions in collaboration with UN Habitat and other key partners, supporting to have food waste and keep food out of landfills, contributing to up to 7% reduction in global methane emissions. And I think this crowd knows what that means, because the global methane pledge is a reduction of 30% of methane emissions. So if we can reduce 7%, just food waste alone, something that our grandmothers taught us, our mothers taught us, I think it's possible. It's possible. We just need to put the infrastructure, especially at city level, the thinking, and connecting back to communities and giving and trusting communities and local governments to lead the way in making this happen, because this is where the action is. And I'd like to introduce my colleague Georgia, actually, in case people have questions about the food waste breakthrough. So Georgia, my colleague Georgia Paternello, is the driving force of the food waste breakthrough, and she will put her email in the chat, which is structured around the breakthrough has quite a few things underneath it. We are open to partnerships around the food waste breakthrough, and we'd very much like to collaborate with you on it. We're hoping to exactly what I'm sorry, I keep quoting Robin, but Robin, one of our ambitions under the breakthrough is to create pockets of funding that would enable local communities to access funds to reduce food waste, because having a decentralized system is the way to go. We see that this is the way to go, especially on this issue, rather than from the top down. All right, back to you, Grace.
Awesome. I see agreement in the panel on some of these issues, especially the local, and interesting to hear. Georgia, you can share your details or any link concerning the food waste breakthrough for people who are interested to partner or collaborate on this. And it's a really huge ambition to keep food from the landfill. And yeah, let's see how it goes. We are hopeful. So We're going now to Jamie. Would like to hear your perspective. I hear this critical policy shift. It's not easy to crack, but let's hear your perspective.
Yes, thank you. Grace, we have two levels. You say local, but I was a speaker during the regional preparatory meeting of UNFSS+4 in Geneva, the Europe and Central Asia preparatory meeting, and I was the only one who used the word local. And I stressed that nobody used the word local. I think that is not forbidden by law, but nobody used it. I didn't know why. So I think that what is very important is also what Anne said, is the advocacy of the local at global level. This we need it, because really the role of local food system, of farmer market, of traditional market as main tool for transition to sustainable food system is not in the policy agenda at the global level. So what is really important is really to strengthen the relationship between all the organization and really collaborate together to bring our voices. And I think that the side event, the side event that we propose, this is a way of working together and influence the political agenda. But also we have to work at local level. I said that the complexity of short supply chain, the fragmentation, the disconnection. So we have to also work at local level. I think that urban food policies and food policy council are very important tool, especially food policy council are unmentioned multi-stakeholder platform, are local multi-stakeholder platform who brings together all the actors. And so this is very important. But probably what we need, we also need to make a step forward, and we need further institutional innovation, because mainly the food policy council are city driven, and they are disconnected with the farmers. Farmers do not participate to the food policy council. So we need also to build arenas that really brings together both the demand side and the supply side. For instance, the Catalonia region develop a regional food plan. Probably this also depends on institutional architecture of each country, but really we have to think to make a step forward on food policy council and really think about a platform which combine both the urban and the rural.
Super. Thank you so much, Jamie. How the Food Policy Council could bring in the rural and the need for advocacy of local at the global, just as emphasizing what Annie had already mentioned. I see a lot of traffic in the chat, and I will read some before we graduate to some field experiences. And I believe these will resonate with our panelists. I see women are always in the heart of family farming, which is the year of urban-rural communities of practice. This important role or rights of women still not well recognized and considered. Thus, urban-rural community, women-led power spaces, networks, forum, platforms is key to facilitate positive change to happen. And I believe, Robin, you had mentioned about youth and women and other panelists. Concerning locals, Ahmed saying linking local, national with regional and global levels, an interactive exchange, sharing, cooperate, networking, advocacy, and influencing. I believe the participatory learning for action research approach could be part of our ongoing interactive conversation. And I see nodding by the panelists. Please keep posting and chat, whether it's comments or questions, as the questions will come back to them in the discussion session, and we'll take your comments as we proceed. I want us to graduate to some field experiences following a very inspiring panel. We'll move to some field experiences from East Africa, specifically Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda. And they will share some practical insights from the ground. And I'm going to start with Dennis Sandaye. Are you there? Dennis Sandaye is a food market strategist, but of course would like to be introduced as a team leader, Regional Coalition for Farmers Markets for Mami Project Kenya. You'll tell us what Mami Project is all about and what you were doing or have done in Kenya. Over to you, Dennis.
Thank you, Grace, and thank you to the presentation so far. And definitely, I can personally resonate with most of what the team has presented. So quickly, I lead a project here in Kenya, which was initiated by the World Farmers Market Coalition in collaboration with the Italian Foreign Affairs Ministry and the Italian Corporation. A beautiful model, you know. I've been in farmers market for many, many years, but for this particular one, it's been very tremendous and very impactful to the Kenyan community and Kenyan farmers. So it's a project, you know, that took us about 1 year, and in the process, we ended up building something beautiful called Farmers Market Nairobi, and an umbrella of Regional Coalition for Farmers Markets. Annie has visited our previous market, but I don't think she's visited this particular one that we launched this year in January, which ideally it's we're working with women and youths, which is part of what we're trying to do, you know, empowering women, empowering the youth. And of course, the farmers, some of them are within Nairobi and others just slightly in the outskirts of Nairobi. Radius of about not more than 80 kilometers drive. And of course, this is also very deliberate, especially in terms of, you know, what it takes to travel before we can access the food. And since we launched, I mean, it's been fantastic, you know, at different levels. One is at the market, the people that produce are actually the ones that sell. So there's no middleman in between, you know, in these markets. And ideally, the market definitely just brings the farms into the community. Now, with this approach that we're doing, of course, there are important things. One is the income. These producers are able to receive money for their effort directly. We all know, I don't know the rest of the world, but in Kenya, the retail space is such a mess, you know. Producers, smallholder farmers are rarely paid on the spot. But with these markets, you're able to sell, get your money, you know, go back to the farm at the end of the day, do what you have to do, wait for another 5 or so days, and show up again at these markets. So in terms of income check, you know, in terms of business growth check, because these farms are still running business. There's local entrepreneurship that's thriving courtesy of these markets. So it's been very impactful. And just to isolate 2 cases that I think are very important is we do have a farmer, you know, she runs, the name of her farm is called Lucille. And when we recruited her, she was doing poultry, both for meat and eggs. And within the 5 or so months that we've been in operation, there's been a testament in terms of how her life has changed because of the revenue. One, in terms of taking her kids to school, something that, you know, wasn't very easy. Second is she's now, it doesn't look like a handout. It's not the tent that we've given. It's not the table that we've given, but she's also investing, you know, part of her revenue in growing her business. You know, she's invested in a refrigerator, you know, and now she's able to bring more slaughtered birds and things like that. Another case is we also work with farmers with disabilities. there's a family-owned farm, a guy called Alex, and he shows up with the wife and the daughter. And again, he started, with one table, but because now we're guaranteeing space and market every weekend, he's just been increasing his production. And I've visited him twice so far in his home, and you can outrightly see the change, the growth. He's even added like dairy goats and things like that. So these markets, other than the supply chain issues, the direct connection and the relationships, the impact is just magnificent, and I think, Robin, it's time for us to explore how to do proper case study that is well documented, especially in terms of how the lives are transformed.
Thank you so much, Dennis. Interesting to hear real examples of economic, social, as well as environmental resilience through farmers markets. Yes. And this is the case of Nairobi. And we see your involvement, or you're involving women, youth, and people with disability. Very exciting. I'll go to Tanzania, and we're going to have Dr. Furaha Aboy. I believe you're with us. You're the Director for Urban Planning for Community Change in Tanzania. You could tell us what you've been doing with markets in Tanzania. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Grace, and hi, everyone. Yes, this is very interesting and very inspiring to hear about farmers and small-scale farmers, particularly. In Tanzania, we have been, as Urban Planning for Community Change, we have been working on public spaces, and on public spaces, we have been exploring the role of these public spaces in terms of parks and food market. And we have been researching on mapping the food markets in the city of Arusha and seeing where they are being located and where are the foods coming from. The vendors are selling the food which are coming where, and then trying to do the analysis of accessibility of this food. So we, for instance, in 2019, we did the research with support of Health Bridge Foundation of Canada. We mapped all the markets in the city of Arusha, and we found that consumers travel 20 to 25 minutes to reach the nearest market to get food. And the other experience is that most of the consumers buy small quantities depending on the needs they have. And the other issue that we have experienced and we have been working on is that in places where there is no food market, or formal, informal food market, there are small food outlet, we call them in Kiswahili genge, whereby the vendors can sell food to their neighbors. If I can go a little bit beyond the urban local food markets, recently we have been working, of course, with the World Farmers Market Coalition and FAO on farmers market. I'm not here to share the findings of the study, but at least on what we have been doing with the farmers market, and is that these farmers are selling directly to consumers, which is something which is very good and building the economy of farmers themselves. But one thing that is a little bit shocking is that we have also middlemen coming in to block the farmers to sell directly to consumers. And the other thing is that these retailers who are coming to buy from the market, from the farmers themselves, they are benefiting a lot than the farmers themselves. So, for instance, in some product that we visited, we saw that farmers are selling selling produce to these retailers, middlemen, and then the middlemen will go and sell in urban areas like Dar es Salaam 3 times the price they bought from the farmer themselves. So not sure how the middleman issue will be handled, because it's an open market, but it's something that is really pinching the farmers mostly in the rural areas. That is shortly that I can share what we are doing with my organization, but also in collaboration with FAO and World Farmers Market Coalition. Thank you.
Thank you. Exciting to hear you're also collaborating with World Farmers Market Coalition, and I believe Health Bridge as well. Interesting to hear of how you're working or with parks and food markets, informal food vending sites, etc. And you mentioned Arusha, which is again an intermediary city, which are core in linking urban and rural communities. So finally, for field experiences, as you prepare your questions, we'll be hearing from Mr. Sensai. I'm not sure if he's with us. He'll be sharing with us. He's a project officer at Advocates for Public Spaces in Uganda. He'll be telling us their experiences in Uganda with markets, informal markets, farmers markets. I'm waiting to see him. So,
yes,
Mr.
Grace, thank you very
Sensai.
much.
All right, over to you.
Yeah, my camera is having a problem, but at least you can hear me talk. My name is Census Boni, Projects Officer, Advocates for Public Spaces. And our work is generally similar to what Dr. Farah has been talking about. We are also doing our work around public spaces, public open green spaces, sustainable transportation, and then fresh food markets. Interestingly, we have done 2 studies so far. Let's say 3. We started with the market assessment, trying to study the quality of our markets in Kampala. We have duplicated that study to focus on 7 new cities, which are smaller to Kampala, some of them distant quite a bit away from Kampala. And then thirdly, we are also now currently doing a study on farmers markets. So you can see that currently we are standing in between the three sectors that we are discussing here. Under our 7 cities study, we looked at the different markets. At least we have walked through these different cities, and it is interesting to find out that each city has at least 3 markets, your traditional markets. And these markets are really serving the local economies. They are supplying us fresh food. People can access fresh food sustainably. People can access affordable food in these markets. They are centers for commerce and employment. And on this point, the government of Uganda is also building more permanent markets, and they are promoting them as starting points, let's say for youth, school dropouts. They are starting points for people to start into business, for people to gain employment. So we are seeing that these markets are really coming up. The other issue when you come to farmers markets, there are not so many. At least the practice has not been here in Uganda. It is more or less a new phenomenon. The markets are generally now organized around Kampala and a few that are going to the upcountry cities. But these markets, as Dr. Robin pointed out, have been what we are realizing that they are strong. They are really boosting the local economies. They are employing those rural farmers, and most importantly, they are promoting organic agriculture, because in those farmers markets, people are not bringing to sell, let's say, chemically produced foods. They are stressing the issue of organic production, and they are also value adding to the crops. That is another important point that we are realizing from the farmers markets. But also the studies have helped us to assess the quality of the markets. Remember, some of these markets are just open gatherings. The spaces are not well planned out. So we have been there assessing the quality in terms of infrastructure, which type of people go to these markets, how many kids are in the markets, do these markets have daycare centers? And we are also trying to stress this issue of daycare centers, because you find so many mothers, single mothers, widowers, they have a number of children to look after, but then when they come to market, they don't have places where they can keep them. So we are really stressing this, and we are advocating for this with government and other stakeholders. We are looking at the road infrastructure around the markets. How are people accessing these markets? Are they passing through bush to access the market? Is the road permitting people, let's say, cycling? Because we are also promoting sustainable transport. Is it favorable? Is the market permitting people to cycle so that they can go and access fresh food? So we are also trying to look at when you get to the market, is it allowing people to socialize? Is it a favorable public space? So we are trying to look at all these, but right now our report is still being drafted. We are thinking that in maybe 2-3 months time, we shall be able to produce it and share it. But then there's a point that was made by Anne on the disconnection.
In 30 seconds.
Yes, please, on the disconnection when it comes to policy. I think in Uganda, we are really experiencing this, especially when it comes to international legislation. There's a big disconnection between the local farmers and then the international community. So I think our governments need to go back and try to link up between the local farmers and then the policymakers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bonny, and we look forward to the report. It sounds interesting, the components that you're covering there, and they are all relevant to urban-rural linkages. And it struck me, what struck me most was the daycare, where the mothers or women, even those who might be from rural areas, they are able to do their businesses knowing their children are well taken care of. And Annie in the chat mentioned something that in local and traditional markets, we have many vendors who are also farmers. I think that's something that Annie and Robin could discuss concerning the definition for farmers markets and having farmers in local and traditional markets as well. So at this point, we're going to get into question and answer and discussion. I've not seen any hand, but there are several comments and questions from the chat. And I would like to call back my panel again. I know some of us have had even some of the terminologies that Jamie has really brought to us by a regional. There is another one that he mentioned that is that he doesn't like scale ups, he likes lateral scaling. So I believe some of us are hearing this maybe for the first time or it struck you or something. So at this point, we'll be having questions in the chat. You can post in the chat. We'll try and answer as many as possible. But I see Ahmed has raised his hand. For the questions, we are giving you maximum 2 minutes to answer so that we can have as many as possible people asking questions and us having responses from the panel. Over to you, Ahmed.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you, everybody. This is really great opportunity to have this conversation with you. What I like to mention, but sorry, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Ahmed Surani, General Coordinator of Gaza Urban and Peri-Urban Agricultural Platform. The shape and the presence of the linkages that we're talking about regarding urban and peri-urban, maybe as well as the rural linkages, I think that's really a challenging issue still that we need to continue considering. But part of this shape and the presence for our approach is what about the local context where there is protracted crisis conditions and situation in conflicted areas, countries, communities. That's why I believe it's really so important by us to consider as well the linkages between the keep linking developmental perspective with emergency relief as well as peace building. That's all the triple nexus. I think it's really important and key to consider this important approach as part of our conversations, especially when we talk about these linkages in a protracted crisis conditions and settings in this regard. The last point, I would like to highlight the importance of family farming. You know, family farming is really playing an important key role in the resilience of the local food system, especially in crisis context. When we talk about family farming, we talk mainly about the role of women and the members of the family in dealing with their different agricultural enterprises, whether it is in urban, peri-urban, or rural contexts. That's really an important issue. Yeah, thank you so much. This is really great to be part of this space. Thank you, dears.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I think we'll take 3 questions and then we'll hear from the panel. Henry, over to you. You have maximum 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much, Grace. And I would like to thank all the presentations have been good quality and with good insights. One major aspect that I've continuously missed out in all the talk, and a number of colleagues there appreciate the One Health concept. The issue of quality and food safety is lacking. We can't talk about resilience, productivity, and sustainability when we do not stress the quality of food. The consumers are the market. Once they are bedridden, all the livelihood that we are raising is down the drain. And the quality infrastructure. I would like to give you a very quick example, and I'm bringing a practical one. We are working in Mbale Central Market and talking to other 8 markets in Mbale City. And the issue of hygiene and food safety, and getting to the farmers, the issue of pesticide abuse that ends up residues in the food, using an food grade infrastructure. So all these bring in the challenge of the good things that we are speaking about here that will go down the road. The burden of health on both family farming, consumers, and the economies. So these are going to be very key aspects. I would like to conclude by saying farmers too are having the challenges of the quality of input, because garbage in is garbage out, what comes onto the market. And lastly, one of the very good examples I would like to give too, we have improved the infrastructure of the fresh fruits and vegetable sellers, the vendors who are also farmers and vendors, where consumer experience has improved, where they easily get quality aspects. So like Kolichu raised from Uganda, talking of the different cities, it is something very key. I know you liked the daycare. I'll give the example of the daycare in Mbale City. The daycare was rented out, and it is very expensive for the vendors, mainly the women and the youth that are in the market. So there are many aspects to do, but the discussion is great. But let's look at quality and food safety too in the whole discussion. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Henry. Let's have Sami Kua, and then we'll hear from the panelists.
Thank you, Grace. My name is Sami Kua. I'm with the Civil Society and Indigenous Peoples Mechanism, CSIPM, where we are currently participating in the CFS policy negotiations on urban and peri-urban food systems policy. And from your concept note for this event, we see part of this discussion will inform the UN Habitat contribution to the CFS Plenary 53, where the urban and peri-urban food systems policy recommendations will be endorsed. We really like the output from this discussion. We have heard Jamie highlighting on the importance of agroecology in rural-urban connections. We have heard Sharon Jill talking on the importance of community connection and intersectionality, and also with indigenous peoples, and also Robin on the importance of supporting local governments, particularly financially, and other actors, so we can implement the localized food programs to realize food and nutrition security. So all these are in alignment with the CSIPM contributions in these policies, and it's what we wanted to emphasize on agroecology, territorial markets, and financial support to local governments. I'll be sharing shortly the CSIPM contribution in this policy process. Thank you very much.
Super. Thank you so much, Sam. Well, let's have Ajay, because I think we'll not even have another round of questions. Over to you. You muted.
Hi, Grace. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I probably want to introduce myself. I'm a planner. I'm working in IT systems for several years. So one of the thing I've been watching this session for several years now, the current forum which we have, I see a common pattern of people having to see that there is middleman and supply chain issues. One possible alignment we can do is to create a lot of digitization as much as possible. It can start with a farmer, it can start with a storage and warehousing system, and end up into how the consumer is behaving for the producers which we are giving. And along the way, we can introduce a lot of these quality parameters. An example is we are working on a statewide supply chain system for agriculture commercial crops, wherein we have introduced QR code into every packages, starting from the farmer to all the way to the consumer derivative products. So along the way, we know where the product is reaching, what is the delay factor, how the supply chain system is, effectively dealing with the demand. So all of the parameters are aggregated into dashboards, which is available for everybody in the ecosystem. So I encourage everybody to probably do a digitization of the process as much as possible.
Okay. Thank you so much. The digital perspective has been brought finally to this virtual room. So I'm going to give the distinguished panel each 1 minute to respond to one of the questions or whatever, some of the questions, but maybe in 1 minute. Time is never adequate. So that then the other questions we will try and respond or send to the panelists to respond, and then we'll share in the report that we'll be sharing after this event. So we could start again with Dr. Anne. 1 minute, you can respond to one or so questions.
I feel the clock is ticking. I think perhaps the idea of thinking about systems where these entry points that you can enter that will have multiple systems cascading impacts is really key. And that comes to the question on food quality and food safety. And from GAIN's side, we've been trying to practically support city governments. So working with, for example, the country of Kenya, who championed guidelines on food hygiene for traditional markets, for food at the codex. So that was something driven locally, went to a global science-based, evidence-based forum, became almost unanimously through a high-speed process of 2 years, guidelines, which are very practical, can be implemented within people's resources. They can't maybe do everything, but what can they do? And it puts the responsibility on all stakeholders, including consumers. And for us, of course, food safety is not food safety separately. It is actually impact, it's destruction on the environment, it's food waste, it's loss of nutrient quality. As food degrades, it becomes less nutritious. It's loss of affordability, income, it's all these different things. So we like to think of not separating food safety out, but sort of seeing it systemically and like through a market, through the relationships with the urban-rural, it becomes in everybody's best interest to keep food as high as quality. So maybe, that's one of the intervention points that we like to do. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Robin?
Yes, 1 minute. Okay, I just wanted to acknowledge all of the comments. So first, after I talk, I'm gonna drop our definition, working definition of a farmer's market. And where we say local farmers, we basically mean family farming. Some families are larger than some others, but yes, absolutely. Family farming, local farming synonymously, we support and we believe that's really, really key. Food safety. Just limited time to talk about all of it, but food safety is absolutely part of what we do. One of our, just an example of, our member in Bangladesh, they opened farmers markets for the first time with our help, and they're known as, market that has safe food. So not all farmers markets are able to, as smallholding farmers are able to not use pesticides, but where they come to farmers market, there is a safety protocol that they will follow, and that's one of the trust, mark. Speaking of trust, conflicted areas. So you're absolutely right. One of our MAMI, Mediterranean and Africa Markets Initiative work, where we opened the farmers market in Lebanon, like in the middle of a conflict area where there are vendors who are, Syrian refugees, Afghani refugees, and they talk to the locals, and the kind of bridges we build in that farmers market is, that goes to the social capital piece that I was talking about before. So absolutely, and we want to do more of it, in particular in North Africa and Mediterranean area. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robin. Sharon?
Yes, if there is anything I would like you to remember from what I said today, it's that food is critical to global environmental goals. So of course, it's something that has a huge socioeconomic impact. We look at it from that perspective as well, but we cannot address our global environmental goals if we do not look at our food system. And for this session, especially, I'd like to emphasize the connection between food waste and methane emissions. And I think that's really something critical that we would like everyone in the food community to talk about, that we need to recognize the role of food waste, which is consumed in cities, because that's where most of the people are now. Very often becomes municipal waste. And it's not only a cost issue, but a clear issue for health, for nutrition, for climate. So if we can jointly resolve that together, then I think we're on a good path.
Thank you, Sharon. Jamie? Did we lose
Yes,
Jamie?
I would like to answer to you, Grace, about lateral scaling. Because yes, I think that the main issue is to downside the global food system. So the point is that we have not to think about scaling up, become big, but really aggregate the small. Is not become big or industrial, is aggregating the small and interconnecting the local. This is the point, not becoming global. This is why I say lateral instead of scaling up, because really is having a bigger impact, but through aggregation of the small. And I think that digitalization can help this. I don't think that when we talk about innovation, we have to think in a more complex way, not just about technology, but is social innovation, institutional innovation, business innovation is more complex. But I think that digital technologies can help in setting up different and connecting the small producer. Just one thing, as Alliance, we are launching a mapping of 100 of best practices on local food system around the world. So for those who are interested, they can contact me, and I left the contact detail in the chat. And I think this is very important because we will launch the idea during the UNFS+4 of developing a kind of handbook on local food system and short food supply chain. But this should be not just theoretical understanding, but based on experiences that are already on the ground. So for those who knows or have experiences of interesting local food system building, please contact us, and very welcome to have different experiences from all around the world.
Thank you so much, Jamie, and thank you so much to the distinguished panel and the field discussants and everybody who joined this session. So after this, we will be sharing the summary of this session with us soon as possible, and contributions from this will be useful to the following global events, as we had mentioned. The white paper will also be disseminated or shared amongst us for anyone willing to contribute. I'm doing this because these are my final words. I would like to hand over to Cecilia Anderson, my colleague, to close this up. And thank you so much. Thank you, colleagues. Look at the chat. There's so many comments, so many resources, so many questions. The questions, we will take note of them. Over to you, Cecilia.
Great. No, thanks a lot, Grace. And thanks so much to actually this wonderful panel of speakers. I mean, Jaime, Robin, Annie, Sharon, Dennis, Furaha, and Census. I think you really sort of made the session such a success. And also to all the participants, thank you for your engagement. And I think this exchange is going to continue. And I think the insights that were brought out today are really important and something that we look forward to taking forward in the future. Just a little bit of a summary of our discussions. I think, we sort of really underscored that food system resilience is not just about a singular intervention. It's a systemic endeavor. It's deeply interconnected. And I think Jaime brought that up very clearly. It's connected with climate, mobility, governance, equity, but also about design of our settlements. We were talking about public spaces. And what really became evident is that it's not only an urban versus rural dilemma, but rather it's about thinking about the relationship between the urban and rural, how cities depend on the rural hinterlands for food and ecological services, and how rural areas rely on the urban markets, the services and infrastructure. So it's about strengthening that relationship, and I think that was brought out really clearly, but making it more balanced. We need to also make it reciprocal, and this is actually really key then to building resilience. Jaime also mentioned sort of the different types of markets, from wet markets to wholesale markets to farmers markets to traditional markets, and it's really that complex system which is so interesting. So local and farmers markets are not just simply about the sites of that interaction. It's really that social system and interconnectedness which we need to take into consideration. They're cultural assets as well. And I think it was also brought in, hubs of innovation with digitalization and so on. So, the markets work well when they are enabled, but we need to make sure that they're connected, that they're well governed, well financed and understood. Robin also reminded us that strengthening food systems is about strengthening local economies. It's about enhancing food security, nutrition, shortening food supply chains. She didn't mention reducing food waste, but I'm adding that to her list. Encouraging climate resilient practices, building community cohesion, and of course, another addition, fostering that innovation at all levels. So I'd really like to stress that these are all deeply interdependent and mutually reinforcing. So one of the clearest takeaways is really about government needs to be involved, and governments at all levels, both national, subnational, local, and they really have a central role to play, whether through policy, planning, investment, or infrastructure. It's really their contribution that determines whether food systems become resilient, inclusive, and climate smart. I think Sharon really brought up this thing about food waste and food loss. And I was actually really surprised reading up on it just now, that 1.3 billion tons of food is wasted every year. That's a lot. And roughly 1/3 of all food produced globally, no, that's actually roughly 1/3 of all food that is produced globally. And of that, nearly 60% of that ends up in the landfill. And landfill is you can't incinerate it, but it's disposed of. And that's also a little bit scary. So we need to actually look at food waste as a resource. It's about composting, recycling, and recovering. So we need to invest in better storage. We need to invest in better logistics. It's about that urban-rural coordination. Food waste can be transformed into value, and Sharon really talked about that as well. It's about, making it into energy, renewable energy. It's about composting, and it can actually contribute to better livelihoods. So I think what's really come out today, and I think that was also the title of this session, we need to take a systems approach, one that sees food systems as ecosystems, but also shaped by flows of people, products, resources, but also actually shaped by our knowledge and knowledge exchange. And it's an approach where we can connect food with climate action, with mobility, with planning, and with social equity. And I'm really excited because I think the discussions today are really going to shape a lot of the elements that UN Habitat will be taking forward in the upcoming global processes. And I'm really excited. I think Grace is going to take this forward, that we're really laying that groundwork for a shared narrative and I hope we can continue this momentum of building that healthy, safe, resilient, and sustainable food systems. A point that was also brought up, trusting the local initiatives and ensuring that we don't leave anybody behind. Thank you, everybody, for today, and really enjoyed this session. Back to you, Grace.
Thank you so much. And it's a wrap. We are 7 minutes over. Thank you so much for your contributions. Very interactive session. Looking forward to great collaboration and contributions and interactions at the global processes ahead of us. Thank you so much. Have a nice evening, day, afternoon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
And market infrastructure to facilitate movement, facilitate safe